Thank you, Commissioner Smith. I will now do a roll call for quorum. Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Cousins,
Here.
Commissioner Wolf.
Here.
Commissioner Zakos is running late. Commissioner Decker,
Here.
Commissioner McPherson.
Here.
We have a quorum. So the first order of business is public comment. Does anybody have any public comment at the time? No? Seeing none, we'll move forward. To all business. And the minutes and have been sent for the February meeting via email. Hopefully you had time to review. Are there any questions? If there's no questions, can I get a motion?
Yeah. I'll second it. Okay, I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Cousins makes a motion and Commissioner Wolf seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Second is the approval of the accounts payable for February 2024. Are there any questions? There's no questions. May I have a motion?
I make the motion.
Commissioner Decker makes a motion.
Motion.
Commissioner Wilson seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Is there a resident commissioner report at this time?
Can you please explain to me about the trespass warrants or trespass? List of like people that are not allowed in here and the ones that are, because a couple people have came to me and said that they was told that there was a couple people that was supposed to be trespassed and are now allowed on the premises. And they want to know, how is that, if it is the case, how is it fair for certain ones to be on the property and then there's other ones that are supposed to be trespassed that can't come on the property? And then the second one was that, is it any way that the security guard can be updated for like, in case if there's a fire, he knows what to do in case, like if some people have to be evacuated. Because that was brought to my attention too. That was asked if we can take the training for that.
Anything else?
No, not for me.
Commissioner McPherson? Do you have anything?
Yes, I do.
How can I help?
I said, there's a lot of people that do come in this building, should not be in this building at all. And we told them that we cannot open the door for them, but they're not allowed on this property. They get kind of snotty with us. They want to fight us. I'm not fighting nobody. That's not my job to do. Like some people want to come in here that I know, like my boyfriend or my kids, they're welcome to come in this building. Because I know them. You know what I mean? I know the kids, I know my boyfriend. The rest of them should not be allowed to come in here. They need to do something about that. Like the security guard, we need to do something about that. Like in Albany, anytime anybody coming to Albany Housing Authority, they write their name on the paper. They take the ID and stuff. They go through the ID on the phone to make sure, they do the kind of crime or whatever. If they do anything wrong, the cops will tell you right then and there, and they cannot come in the building at all. That's how they do it in Albany Housing Authority. Why they can't do it down here in Hudson? Why they can't do it in Hudson? Check the ID out and check them out, and make sure they're okay to come into the building. If they're not okay, they gotta stay away from here. That's what they try to do it. That's what they try to do down here. Yeah, if they don't go by, just dial 911, tell the cop what's going on, they will come and pick them up and take them away from here. Before any kind of crime starts. You never know, they might come in with a gun, they might come with a knife or whatever in this building. I don't want to see nobody get hurt. No, I don't want to see little kids get stabbed, get shot with a gun. No, I don't want to see that. No, because I was not raised up like that. I raised up to help people out. That's what I'm going to start doing, help people out, even kids. If I don't like it, it's too bad. Take it with God above. If God want me to do it, I'm going to do it.
Thank you for this. Is there anything else?
Nope, that's it.
I wanna you know, we'll take those things into consideration, but just
Yeah.
on a trespass list, it's hard for me to address the issue in general, because I don't know who the persons are, whether they were trespassed before and whether it was lifted or not, or whatever the case may be. I'm not certain. So if you can come see me about that and have a conversation with me, I can give you more information. But in general, if a person is trespassed, that information is given to our security guard. And that actually, for people that are trespassed that are just trespass, he actually delivers the notices, so he pretty much knows the people that should be trespassed. But we will look into the other procedures in terms of coming to.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you for that. I'm going to give a brief executive director report, and then after that, we will have Marco, where we have Mr. Mario and Tim Zambudo online with us. All right, so first thing I want to mention is that there were some questions about charges last meeting. Mr. Commissioner Zantos asked why county waste was listed twice. And that was, I just wanted to explain that was because that was the February payment. So if you look on the bill payment this month, you'll notice there's no county waste payment for February. So it was one was like the 9th and the other one was like the 29th. So that was February's payment. The second question was Flanders Group. That is our workers' compensation company. So that's what those, he was asking what company that was. The number second is, we have just finished our audit. They're working to get some information to us. And we will be, you know, the reports which I'll be given to the commissioners, and I'll speak to you more about that there is meeting, but things are very, very tight. But again, I'll expound on that next week. Okay. The third thing is our administrative plan is available in our office. The administrative plan is a supporting document to the PHA, and it must be available for public review, which it is. And we must revise the administrative plan if needed to comply with HUD requirements, and they make some updates in their requirements to update the plan. So there will be a public hearing on, and it's been advertised in the paper. The public hearing will be here at 6 o'clock on April 8th. And so, but if you have questions and comments after you come and view, you can email those questions to you so that, and we have to respond to that right to answer the questions or in the public hearing. Lastly, there are inspections that are coming. We have a third-party inspector coming to inspect 100% of our occupied units. So there's several things we're asking you to do. First of all, be compliant, allow them into your unit. If you're not at home, we do have a master key will come in and do the inspection. The next thing is please make sure that your unit is clean and all the pathways are clear so that the inspector and the escort can move around the apartment quickly and efficiently and take notice of any deficiencies and then, you know, exit the apartment. So that will be on April 8th and 9th. Notices have been sent out. If you have any questions, let us know, but we will give information to you otherwise about your whether you pass, fail, because I know my understanding people come down and ask those questions. You have a question?
I was gonna say, with the notices, have you, or is it possible to like invite Healthy Homes in the week prior to see if they'd be, if anybody wants their assistance? With getting the apartment clean so that they're comfortable welcoming them in. And maybe if there's some support for the tenant reps, to have a moment to pass out some flyers themselves that's not coming from the office to see if they get different feedback than you all might get, as the tenant reps around, like, if they have any concerns, any questions about the process,
About that process of
the new inspection.
well, I'm kind of not following you. What questions by just
Well, you're asking that they make sure that they welcome them in and that their apartments are clean and ready, so
Yes.
maybe folks might want to ask for assistance with that, or may
part of-
ask for more time or something like that.
well, we're not going to be able to gain more time because the inspections, the person is from out of town, so they're coming to do the inspections and they are scheduled on the 8th and the 9th, so they have to happen that day. But that's why we also notified them like last week. So we literally given about a month notice. But if you give me more information on healthy homes, I'll look into that, as well as if the commissioners, the resident commissioners are willing to offer their services, as you said, to go around and see if those services are needed. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, and I could share more information with you guys, what I'm assuming folks might ask for around like advocacy, for another inspections. If it's an outside person, it just might be a different feeling than inviting you all into the house or the extermination. So, you know, folks might be a little wary of that. That's just the housing advocate in me.
Well, I mean, and I understand that, but it is like a required inspection, and it's not, we're really not so much coming and stuff the tenant, although there will be things that
Right.
are looked at, is really for their health and safety.
I understand that, and I think I don't know how much I don't know what information is on what you passed out, so like for folks to understand what the inspection actually is, I think that's where tenant reps are very useful.
Somebody asked
And
me
I'll,
that.
and, I'm
Alright,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, one of the tenants did ask me about, because the way you wrote it, they're saying thing it's for HUD, not for like the house inspection. Cause the last time that we had the inspection was when it was then way before COVID. So when that letter went out, it was saying for housekeeping. But you have it as like for HUD, so they think it's HUD, not like the housekeeping.
So what I'll do, I'll share a copy of the letters with the commissioners. So I'll share a copy of the letter with the commissioners, but we did distribute it for the inspectors, but they wrote the letter. The inspector, and basically all it says is that in accordance with HUD, you have to be inspected. Your apartment has to be inspected for the housing quality inspection standards. We're gonna be coming at this date, we'll have an escort, and just basic information like that. And if they have, and some of people actually have called the company because they've heard. And I've told them to, just let them know that, what type of inspection it is, and if they have further questions, they can contact the office.
Cool, thank
Okay?
you.
Right, thank you for that. At this time, we have Mr. Mario Wamako with Mr. Mario and Mutane Zambodo here to update us. The floor is yours.
I'm not sure if you want, John is there and wants to kick it off. I'm sorry, I don't see him on video, but maybe I'll kick it off briefly and then I can turn it over to John. First, thank you so much for having us. This is always a pleasure to give you some highlights because a lot goes on in between board meetings, but this meeting in particular, we have some really exciting highlights to share. So one of them, and of course, answer any questions you all have and recap anything you'd like us to recap. So please ask away while I'm speaking as well. So we've gotten tremendous support. I know John was here last month to give you an update on our meeting with the state of New York. The state reviewed our master plan, which is the same plan that we've kind of gone over before in the big strokes, right? The footprints of the building utilizing all 4 acres, with the northern part being 1 building and then 2 other buildings on the southern part totaling about 300 units. So they were very, very supportive of this build. And today we have some very exciting news that we have submitted our financing discussion to the state for phase 1. Phase 1 is the north build. So that first building that is now on the basketball court, that we would actually build first in order to allow relocation at Bliss and Columbia Apartments. Oh, and I'm also build out of the townhouses. So that would all be in phase 1. The submission to the state really is just a conversation to kick off the financing discussion. So to be super clear, we don't have a commitment for financing, but this is where it will get very real with their feedback. Once we have feedback on the dollars and the numbers from them, we will come back to you to discuss the various implications, to discuss if we need to make cuts, if our gross square feet are too large for the capacity of financing, if we need to add more 30% units, if we actually need to increase revenue. All of that will be a very dynamic discussion with you once we know their feelings about the actual dollars attached to our plan. So that was really, really exciting. And hopefully we should have feedback before the next board meeting, at least like to give you some context as to how this is moving by the next board meeting. I don't expect any of this to be resolved before the next board meeting, but just in terms of having at least a date set for that discussion to happen. Some other big highlights are, the city of Hudson, as well as like the mayor's office. They've all been incredibly supportive of this redevelopment. And so one big application that we submitted is actually being funded by the Empire State Development Corporation, which is a state agency, but it's being discussed with the city of Hudson. So the city has accepted applications for funding through the Restore program, and we put in our application. So again, that's not a commitment for funding, but we have our names in the hat, and we are ready to discuss and really advocate for our project. And to that end, we really greatly appreciate, the city in that capacity as well as everything here that chairwoman, the board, executive director, you all have done to like move this forward so seamlessly. It's just been a tremendous effort to get us here to like really start the financing and securing financing components of this project. Some other things that are in the works are also in the works very real time in a very exciting update way. We are requesting financing support from our elected officials. And so we have 2 applications out. It may be too premature to share our like directions so widely, but one of them is to really address the immediate needs of the tenants of Bliss Towers. So we are hoping to not only look for capital financing for the redevelopment, but also secure a little bit of money for Bliss. And I will defer to Jeff and Chairwoman on any details you find appropriate. The only reason why I just don't want like I'll just defer to you on any details on that front. And again, that is a request that is moving forward real time. It has not actually moved forward yet, but we are hopeful to get that out this week. That I think is really it for my big updates. I'll turn to John to see if I missed anything, and then we're happy to answer questions. I know that, I'm sure you have many.
Thanks, Jude.
Oh, just one quick question. Is there a history of housing authorities receiving funds through the Restore New York process?
It's a great question. So they really do support a gambit of community development projects and affordable housing. So I'm not sure of their public housing restrictions. I'd be curious to know if that's like based on something you've seen or heard. But they do both like the community components where there's like a mixed use as well as just affordable housing only. So I do think that our affordable housing focused application is just as competitive for the Restore funds.
And there was no indication of any type of restriction like that in the application, correct?
There's no restriction on it, like, for example, that we're a public housing and it's just for affordable housing that I saw, no.
So to answer your question, I'm not aware of any public housing authorities that have received Restore funds, but as Jeff and you said, there's no restriction on the application. We believe the project obviously qualifies for affordable housing. So we think it's appropriate, and the city agreed with that. So the city is supporting that application. I'd add just a couple of things to what you mentioned. The application that went in today, the technical assistance, the submission application, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. It's also a really big application. And I would say a couple of things about it. One is the housing authority staff has been terrific, and Jeff and Ramonda have been great to help put that together. We can't go anyplace without that. That's the first building block. Now the state has something. The state, if you're aware, state representative was out here maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, familiar with the site, familiar with what we want to do generally, but they need something substantive that particular person needs something substantive that he can send out to his finance people, they'll review it. And then the next step in that is that they'll come back to us, and this is what he was referring to, is there'll be a meeting, and they'll respond to what we submitted. And then we'll modify the application based on what they said. But I can't overemphasize how critical that is. Without this, we don't have anything. So the first application is in. Again, it doesn't mean we're gonna get funded, but we need to get this in, and it's in now, and that's great. The second thing, I would add, again, in the restore program, a lot of work was done by Jeff and the staff and you, to get that in. The city has been incredibly supportive. Again, I think, I'd like to think we have a good shot at it. It certainly is a worthy project, any which way you cut it. It would be great for the state to see, some restore money coming in. They like to see funding coming in from other sources. So that's a good thing. And we'll be reporting back to you on that, over the course of the next month or two as the application goes in and as we get feedback on it. One of the things that you mentioned, and clearly this came out of the board's interest and the residents' interest that we've had over the course of the last couple of months of meetings about what's happening now. This is great. The planning is wonderful, but it's going to take 3 years. By the time we get funding and we build, in the meantime, what's going to happen to Bliss? And that's something we've heard from residents a couple of times in a couple of different ways. So, we're working on an application now to go in, and I won't go into the details too much, but if we can get a significant amount of funding, I think the Housing Authority has some priorities as to work they would like to do, that would help operate the building going forward for the next couple of years. So I think the elevator improvements are one of the things that we're looking at. But we have to see what type of response we can get from the elected officials who, again, have been very supportive. But you know, until you have the approval, you know, you don't have the approval. The last thing that I would mention is, and again, coming from all the discussions we've had, is the idea of enhancing the resident involvement piece of what we're doing. There was a resident meeting not too long ago. One of the things that we're in the process of doing is formalizing that process so that there's going to be a meeting every 2 months. There's going to be notes from the meeting that we have or the next meeting that will be passed out to the residents so everybody can see. You know, a lot of people don't come to those resident meetings, right? But if we have notes, at least people can follow them, and that way there'll be a tracking of what's going on throughout the process. We've had some discussions with Jeff about this. It's a little too early to do it now, but one of the things that we're committed to doing, I think the residents would like that, but we'll talk about it with the committee, is when we get closer to actually doing the rehab, we could do a model apartment. Okay, where people can come in and see it before we actually start the work. We could actually bring in models of the cabinets and the countertops and things of that nature and review that and get the residents involved. I'm gonna be real honest, that's a two-way sword. You know, if you have, I'll give you actually the numbers. The last time we did this, we had about 40 residents, and we gave them 3 different colored cabinets, same cabinet quality, all the rest of it, but it's just color. About a third wanted the darker one, about a third one in the middle, about a third wanted the lighter ones. So you're not going to get full agreement and everything, but we'd like to get as much input as we can, and where we can get consensus. It's just as easy for us to, you know, to buy the cabinets that most people like the most in terms of colors and painting and things. So we'll do that as we get closer, and we'll do it through the resident committee that's going to meet on an every 2-month basis. But you know, for now, we're looking at some other things that we can do. Maybe with that group having to do with a letter writing campaign, because we have funding applications going in. So if the residents can support those applications, the funding agencies actually respond very well to that. So we'll be talking with the group, over the course of the next couple of months about, how we would do that. The resident involvement piece, I know is important to the board. It's important to us as well, and, the residents deserve that. So that's another piece. I think that's really about it in terms of, what we said. I know it seems, if you're on the resident side, it seems like this takes forever. From a developer's point of view, I'll tell you, it's like light speed to go from where we were to get the TAS submission in. It's gonna take a long time to get to a funding approval. I believe we're gonna get there. Right now, the earliest we think we can close is probably around this time next year, but we're pushing and we have to see what the state says. Okay, so I'm gonna stop now, and any questions you and Jeff and I will try to answer for you.
Anyone have any questions?
Before y'all ask questions, I think I also have just one last question for you. So one of the assumptions in our submission is about the actual project-based voucher HAP contract. So the actual like vouchers that HUD gave us as part of the RAD program. We all agree they are amazing. And the way we have structured it, we hope makes sense to the board, but we want to just make sure you're okay with it. So right now, between Bliss and Columbia, you have 135 vouchers, right? One for each unit. We'd like to carry over to either the townhouses or to the new Site B structure, 100% of the occupied vouchered units right now. So if, for example, there are 100 occupied household units, we would like to bring over 100 vouchers into phase 1. And then the other 35 will remain on phase 2. In addition to that, we are also planning to apply for up to 16 project-based vouchers from the state. So we can, ultimately across the 4 projects, we will have 16 for phase 1 and 16 for phase 2. So an additional 32 units. To the extent that you guys want that, that's not like, that's something we can discuss at any time. But I'm hopeful that the breakdown of the actual PBVs by bringing over the occupied ones into phase 1 and then leaving the rest on phase 2 kind of makes sense. And I'm happy to go into the reasons of why as well. I don't know if that's like, given the confirmation, I'm not sure if like you guys, if the details there are like necessary, but I'm always happy to go into the weeds. You guys know me, poor Mr. Dodson. We'll go into the weeds on all of it.
But the 16 additional vouchers that we'll request from the state for, well, on each project will be important because it'll be additional rental assistance.
Yes.
Which is great. So just to clarify.
I'm curious about some of the details as to why we don't want to carry the 135 over, if you could explain some.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So the 135 units are actually, the rent coming in is very low. So the rent coming in, I think as a ballpark, for example, a 1-bedroom unit is $700 a month. Like that's the only money that the housing authority is getting in for that unit. Just to operate that unit, it costs $700 a month. Right, so so right now you guys see that from your financials, like you guys are a break-even housing authority. If we bring over 100% of the units, what that means for the actual project is that you're also at break even, because then it's 1 for 1, like the part B, site B, phase 1 is basically the same size as your portfolio here. It's, 150 units versus 135, basically. So you're bringing in the revenue 1 for 1, and then you're expecting to operate better, right? Because the hope is we operate better. We operate at financial plus, we've got cash flow, we've got reserves being funded, like that's the hope. So we know we can't do that at a 1 for 1. What bringing over 100 means is we still bring over that 100 that are getting $700 a unit, and then we're able to lease the other ones up at higher rents, so that we can actually balance out the revenue for all the existing residents. Then in phase B, we still preserve and carry the PBV contracts. We add on additional PBVs. The state's new PBVs that I was referencing, the up to 16 in phase one and 16 in phase two, those actually come in at fair market value. And often depending on like the year, they could come in at 110% of fair market value. They could come in at 120% of fair market value. So that's a major difference than like 35% of AMI, like sized rents, like at the lowest income tiered rents. It's just one of like the negatives that happened during the RAD conversion. And it's actually one of our biggest financing limitations. Like if, you know, if HUD had given us like a better conversion rate and our rents were coming in at $1,000 a unit, like we could just bring 100% of them over and we would be fine. The extra $300 a unit would make, you know, make all the difference. It's just that we don't have that with the existing rent structure. We have spoken to our HUD council pretty extensively. And our HUD council believes that there is no viable path to have an adjustment of that RAD rent. However, the ask right now, the proposed ask, if you all are okay with it, is for us to go back to HUD and ask for that to be modified so that we can bring half of them over now and then leave half of them for the next time. And excuse me, it's not half, it's going to be, you know, representative of the number of households so that everyone comes over into a unit with a PBV. Like the tenants get no impact and then the rest will just sit with phase two.
That makes
So
sense.
thanks-
Thank you
yeah.
for that.
No, and thanks for
It
that
just
question. 'cause
sparked another thought.
Yeah,
Just around like, if we have a broader conversation around commitment to like what we're willing to charge as a housing authority. I know that fair market value is something that we can entertain in this conversation, but I think the intention of the board was to set a precedent of what affordable housing should look like in this community. And I still think that we have the advantage in this conversation to further explore how much we're actually willing to charge.
And we can.
so I may want to clarify that just really briefly. So we absolutely agree with that. The fair market rent comment is actually only in connection with the project-based vouchers. So for those units, we, like the housing authority, would be getting fair market rent, but the actual tenant would only be paying 30% of their income. So that's the only time that you would actually be using something to size to fair market rent. Otherwise, you're sizing to the low income housing tax credit program allowable rent structure. So like the federal guidelines on 30% AMI restricted units, 40%, 50%, 60%, and then 80%, which is like, you know, like the highest low income tier that low income housing encompasses under like this program.
Okay.
So within that time, within that limit though, we could definitely, like, if you don't want to, I'm so sorry. I feel like every meeting I think to myself, why don't I have this number handy? But like at 80% of AMI, for example, if the rent is $1,500 a unit, first it's like rented to someone with a higher income within the low income category. But if you feel like that $15 rent is still too high for what you're looking to achieve, then we could definitely discuss making it lower. That's when this, in the next set of projections, when we discuss with the state, like our finances or financing limitations, that's when that will be really important. So you're only about 30 days shy of having that discussion. And that's, so it's very like, very timely of a note.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Volk, yeah. Question?
Oh, I was curious, back to tenant involvement, I'm sorry, resident involvement. I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about, you were talking about a committee. Does the committee exist?
But there is a bi-monthly meeting, and my understanding is the resident commissioners are part of that. I don't think that there's a formal structure. I don't know that anybody's been elected chair or co-chair or anything like that, but we see that group, okay, as the committee, and they can be as formal as or as informal as they want to be. If that group wants to elect a spokesperson or chairperson of that group, that's fine. It doesn't, it's not a part of the board formally, okay, but it certainly is input that we can all use.
Yeah, and so that's been meeting.
Yeah, we were all there.
That, we only had one and that,
Mhm.
Right,
That's what he's speaking of the last meeting.
yeah, but we didn't have no like vice chairperson or anything like that.
No,
Well,
and that's what he was saying, that you can if you want, but he's saying that you two are always at the meeting guaranteed, so that's why he's saying you guys take
But
the
if-
role of that.
And other residents show up?
Yeah, I was there.
Will show up?
Yeah, they did. It was a good turnout.
And we can talk about that at the next meeting, about how the group wants to be structured. Do you
Mhm.
want to just have it as a meeting and everybody comes? Do you want to be more formal? And, you know, do you want to elect a spokesperson? You know, that's, every group does it a little bit differently. There's no single way that it can be done. And that, you know, the resident commissioners certainly can help lead and help form.
But that topic will definitely be
So I
on the
wanna do
agenda,
it.
so we'll make a decision about that next meeting, which will be again, the first Tuesday.
Yeah, we can make that an agenda item.
And just, unless something changes, just so we wanted to make a commitment to the residents, so we will be meeting the first Tuesday of every other month. If there's a conflict in schedule, obviously we'll notify everyone so we can make a change, but that is what we're aiming for. Okay, so the next meeting will be in May. Any other questions?
Actually, I do, so when you're saying that you want the residents to have their input of like the design, like. When will that like take place?
Sure. That's a really good question. Thank you. So once we get feedback from the state over the course of the next month, okay? They're gonna have their say in design and tell us what they think about it. And we may have to revise what we originally submitted to them, okay? At that point, we'll have a better idea of what we think the first phase is gonna look like. And then we can come in and talk, and we'll bring the architects, okay, to the meeting, whether it's at the May meeting or the meeting after that. Because now once we have a general idea about how many units and bedroom distribution, then the architects can begin to provide some visuals as to what this is really gonna look like. And that's when we can come in, they'll present it to the residents, and they can comment on the visuals, on colors, on heights, on all sorts of stuff. And we'll begin to have that discussion. But that, we should really have the architects at that meeting so that they can talk about design and layout and what their thoughts are.
Anyone else? No? Thank you, Marco. We appreciate your commitment to our project, and we're looking forward to being better.
We love working with you guys, and it's gonna start getting real exciting over the course of the next couple of months.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So the next order of business we'll move to is new business. And there is a resolution number 545 for legal services. Which reads. Okay. Whereas the Housing Authority seeks to procure legal services for the authority for the purposes of pursuing eviction proceedings for non-payment of rent, and whereas the authority undertook a solicitation for legal services for the above stated purposes, which received 2 responsive bids. And whereas the authority further identified John Keenan Esquire as a third potential provider of such legal services, and whereas Mr. Keenan provided a proposal via email, which fully explained the costs associated with his proposed presentation, a copy which is annexed here to as Exhibit N, and the proposal, and the authority has reviewed and evaluated the proposal submitted by Mr. Keenan for the provisions of such legal services, and found Mr. Keenan's submission to be the most responsible submission, and found Mr. Keenan to be a responsible bidder, as that term is defined in Section DA of the authority's procurement policy. And whereas the board deems it advisable in the best interest of the authority to engage the services of Mr. Keenan under the terms and conditions set forth below. Now therefore, it be it resolved that the board hereby authorizes the executive director to negotiate and execute an agreement with Mr. Keenan under the terms set forth in this proposal. And be it further resolved that the aforementioned solicitation previously received by the authority were deemed inadequate pursuant to Section 2FA of the authority procurement policy, thus allowing the authority to entertain non-competitive proposals or solicitations pursuant to the same policy, section 11. Further resolved that the executive director of the authority be and hereby is authorized and directed on behalf of, in the name of the authority, to take all actions and to execute and deliver any and all documents which he, in the exercise of his sole discretion, deems necessary, advisable, or appropriate to implement the above mentioned actions and resolutions without further authority or approval by the board. And be it further resolved that all of the foregoing resolutions are in furtherance of the purposes of the authority. Are there any questions?
Mm, Go ahead.
I was gonna ask what caused you to deem the other solicitations inadequate?
The prices were too high. Which were,
And is that the attached?
no, this is the attached for this. person with the
Oh, I
price.
thought that was for WOH, the ones, the attachment was for one of the
I think it
WOH.
Well, they were, they
No, I think they were on
corresponded,
it.
they corresponded with the, and it actually was a recommendation from them.
Oh, okay, so that's, okay, so that they're on there, but
Mm.
that's a letter from,
Mhm.
Right, from Mr.
Keenan.
Keenan.
Gotcha.
Yes.
gotcha, I understand.
Any
Thank
other-
you.
Any other questions?
My question, so this resolution would permit you to move forward with only non-payment evictions. Would the other evictions still come before the board?
No evictions come before you.
I think I
That
already
is
finished it.
outside of the.
Well, no, because we did a resolution with, we did a resolution with Tim where all evictions went to the board. So they're not should be in the office, but we as a board, except for Nick and those two down there. But we did one with Tim where all evictions went through the board.
And we did that during COVID and we plan to revisit it, but we haven't revisited it yet, so I'm just making sure that until we've revisited this resolution doesn't affect that resolution.
I was not aware of it. I'll try to find the resolution. And, you know, if it's a resolution, we'll act accordingly to.
Thank you.
What year do you think that was?
2020 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, maybe around even September 2020.
Any other questions? We have a motion.
Yeah, we got somebody that wanna talk. Talk.
Well, no, this is just for the board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So may I have a motion?
I make that motion.
Commissioner
Nope.
Decker, second.
Nope.
Everybody second?
Uh,
Commissioner Zako second. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Smith.
And this is only for non-payment, right?
It's agreed to.
Okay. Aye.
Commissioner Cousins,
I'm gonna abstain until we figure out what the other resolution is.
Commissioner Wolf,
Aye.
Commissioner Zakos.
Aye.
Commissioner Decker,
Aye.
Commissioner McPherson.
Aye.
The motion carries. This time, there's nothing further, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We got another question?
Yeah, no, Deb is saying,
No?
you don't have anything, Deb? No?
I think
Okay.
she was asking the
Oh,
residents.
Commissioner Decker made the motion to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Zakos. The meeting, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The guys have it, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.